Hi, I'm Carlo Fernandez, and this is Architectural Analysis in Zion National Park. So, architecture in itself is a very broad profession. People can design small-scale residential architecture like houses, apartment buildings, etc., massive skyscrapers and compounds, to everything in between, like bus shelters and pergolas. However, when talking about national park architecture, there is a very specific design the government wants called NPS Rustic, which stands for National Park Service Rustic, or for short, Parkitecture. Architecture is a more natural rustic look, where the materials that are used to make and clad the building are natural materials found locally in the region. In our case with Zion National Park, the materials that are used for the buildings are wood and stone, which is quintessential rustic design. Even though we have a style to base the buildings off of, designing them isn't that easy. There are a lot of factors that go into designing a building, and a lot of them can help with the design itself. Some of the factors are things like topography, the slope of the ground, the surrounding conditions of the building, are there any other buildings around it, is it by itself, and also nature, land formations, climate, etc. On top of these conditions, there are also several more factors we need to take into account. These are what is the purpose of the structure, what materials should be used and why, what does the client want as a design, and how should we interact with the structure. So to analyze architecture, we first have to find out all the factors I just listed: why it's built, materials used, influence for design, and how nature interacts with it. So for some of these, we have to do some research, and for others, we can just analyze from looking at the building. Before we dive too deeply into the architecture portion, let's go ahead and look at our site, Zion National Park. So the landscape of Zion. So Zion National Park is near remote Springfield, Utah. That's in the Colorado Plateau region, specifically in a region called the Grand Staircase. The Grand Staircase is an area with uplifted, tilted, and eroded rock to create what looks like a staircase from a satellite view. The uplift caused rocks to be pushed upwards to where the land was previously flat, to where the land nearly became 10,000 feet above sea level. Because of this uplift, streams started flowing through the rock, eroding them, and forming deep, narrow canyons like you see here in Zion. The climate around Zion also is mostly desert, so there's a lot of sand and red rock. However, there is a stream that flows through the park, and greenery and trees scattered around Zion. Since we've introduced the park, now it's time to introduce the buildings. Today we're going to be looking at Zion Visitor Center, as well as Zion Lodge. So, looking at the Visitor Center, we can see the materials used. There's a lot of wood, there's a lot of stone. But also we have a lot of glass. Right here, also right around here. What this glass does, it allows for light to go into the building, as well as make it appear nice and open. We want it to be open because we want it to be nice and inviting for visitors to go inside. So for that, we also have windows on the face of the building here, and also back here. So then visitors can go inside the building from any location around the building. So that's not the only glass we have. We also have glass up here in what we call a clear story. Clear story is to allow light from outside to come into the roof and illuminate the inside of the interior. But the slope of this roof is very peculiar in the way that it's angled. So where does the angle really come from? If we look around the exterior of the landscape, we can see that there's almost an exact angle in the slope of this cliff face behind it. So they got inspiration from the cliff behind it for the angle of the roof itself. Looking at this image, we can also see the horizontality of the building. Oops. Hold on. There. What the horizontality allows the building to be very low slung and to kind of disappear into the landscape, so your eyes are instead focused more on the trees and also the cliff faces behind it. However, you also have these tall structures for the chimneys that are also very vertical. So what is the purpose of these two chimneys? Well, looking at the landscape around it, you can see this cliff face again. Also, there's another one right here. If you stand where these people are and look towards the building, you'll have the chimneys here and the cliff face here, and they match. But we also have a pair of two here and a pair of two here. So we tie the building into the landscape around it, why make these bridges just one when instead you could also have two? So it creates a nice flow with the building itself and also the landscape. And looking at this image, again we have a clear story here, but the angle of this doesn't serve the same purpose as the other one before. Instead, when looking at the building, your eyes are drawn up the roof line, off the tip of the clear story, and then you see this nice big cliff face right there. So what the building does is it's framing the landscape around it so you can just see the natural cliff face. Now, looking at the Zion Lodge, we can also see the horizontality of the structure as well. Also looking at this image, there are a lot of trees around the lodge. They put the lodge purposely in this area so the trees would kind of hide it from the landscape around, so you're on hiking trails in the cliff face, you won't exactly see the lodge. And looking at this image, the lodge itself, the design of it is very repetitive. What this allows you to not acknowledge the building as much, to look at the landscape around it, but also they have it to where it's nice and repetitive for these nice decks. What the decks do, it allows the people inside the building to instead experience nature out on the outside. So they have the option to be inside, where it's nice and sheltered, or to come outside and enjoy the climate and also the landscape around it. However, they also have open decks and then closed off decks. What this does is for the spring and the fall, you can go onto your open deck and enjoy the climate, which is 60, 70 degrees, sunny, it's nice. Or when it's too hot, like in the summer, or too cold, and like in the winter, you can go on the closed deck to where it's nice and shaded and you're shielded from the elements. And thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at cfernandez47@gatech.edu. And thank you.